So I've hit the recording button. There's no turning back from here. We are now recording. So
Once we're in it,
basically, what has happened this week in gaming was Warframe has a new update coming out. I'm not sure if everybody has tried it. I know Venom probably hasn't tried that game yet, but
nope.
it's I don't think he ever plans to, but it is a game that I describe as the best co-op experience in gaming, period. But it has its problems. Doesn't mean it's perfect. That's probably like where my praise ends of the game. It's super grindy for no reason. It's been praised by a lot of devs for being uh one of the best free to play models because they've earned a lot of money over time and they've been going for a long time. So longevity. Like to give you an example, like when PS5 or PlayStation did their kind of uh gaming convention or stream, one of the Warframe devs was like in the center of the whole, like all the devs that they listed there, and it was like she had like the biggest like circle there. So that I was told that, or I found out that that was like a sign of respect. So they're highly respected at Warframe in the dev community. Um, for like the job that they've done with Warframe. So it's a highly respected game, but it's a game that has kind of fallen off over the last couple of years because of a lot of issues with the game. And recently a lot of the developers that were over the design of the game for the last couple of years have left, and now the new developers are Rebecca and Pablo, which they've been on the team for a long time, but now they're in charge. And so uh one of my friends I played the game with, says that this is going to nosedive the game into oblivion because these devs in particular have been known to nerf a lot of things in the game, and they are nerfing a lot of things. But they, like, a lot of the AoE weapons that were strong before are getting completely nerfed. And they're particularly attacking the gameplay style of like um, sitting in a corner. They call it closet gaming, where you just kind of find a nice closet and you just kind of spam all your abilities. I know Navy is new to the game, but he's kind of caught up to where I am, and he's kind of seen how the game has transformed from, where he was kind of, new and fresh and kind of still challenged with the content, to the now where he can kind of hop in with randoms and he can see like the kind of like power that people have, and how it just kind of it's fun, but it kind of like over time it kind of nerfs the fun that you might have for some people, for most people. So Navy, I don't know if you want to speak on that.
mainly for the most part, like Warframe, it's fun, but like the lack of direction and guidance in the game does kind of provide a challenge for like newer players. And the community is very very helpful, but most people don't know how to extend the help, and it's kind of put off from like a you should already know this standpoint, and if you don't, you just look it up. So nobody wants to do that, especially depending on the type of games that you play. And for that aspect of a new player, it makes a lot of new players not want to play the game because once you get to like mastery rank 3 or 4, it's like, hey, what do I do from here? And then you have this long blank and you get nowhere. And most people leave the game because there's nobody that plays it with them, or they don't understand the community and they're like, forget it. It was a free game. I'm not losing anything. And they leave the game.
Honestly. So I don't play Warframe, but that sounds like a problem with a lot of games where the net that they're casting for the people who are trying to play is so wide that it's impossible for the developers to cater to everybody. Like either the new players are going to feel alienated or the old players are going to get bored. And I don't play Warframe, but maybe I don't know. Maybe that might be a problem.
Yeah, and they're certainly trying to solve it, and that's kind of why I brought it up, because they're making huge changes to the game, and the update is supposed to be out, if not this week coming up, the week after. And some of those changes they're making for new players is they're changing the abilities of the starter warframes. So, like for instance, Excalibur was one of the poster boys for the game. He's going to be able to proc bleed on all of his attacks, all of his abilities, which sounds OP. But I've been told by veterans that that's more of a new player thing, to make the new player experience more fun. Because again, you do get to that OP level, but not from the beginning. So I don't know, Navy, how you would have felt if your Excalibur was to proc bleed on all of his abilities in the beginning of the game. Because I don't honestly remember how the beginning of the game was. But also Mag, one of the other starter warframes, she's getting a change to her abilities where she can her pull. She had this ability called pull, where it would pull the enemies behind you. So now pull will pull all the enemies right in front of you, which is just like a quality of life thing for the kit. So they're making these changes so that the beginning warframes feel smoother, do more damage, and they're doing that also with the idea that people would stick with these warframes longer, because a lot of the starter warframes they get discarded, but they're actually some of the best warframes in the game. So they want to see people stick to those warframes. But also they're adding in game, because Navy talked about the directionlessness of the game. But now there's going to be an actual in game to the game. There's going to be actual in game bosses. Raids are coming back. And that makes me excited, because it gives me something to look forward to, because I was, even being a veteran, I'm also directionless in the game. Like there's so many things I could do. I don't know what is the priority. So I just end up doing a bunch of random things, and it becomes, even though the co-op experience is fun, when you have 4 people who all don't know exactly what they want to do, you can get to these moments where it's like we finish a mission and we're all like, so yeah, what's next? And we just all end up sitting on our ships for like an extended period of time, talking about life and all the type of stuff, instead of actually playing the game. So with the end game in mind, everybody's going to have this direction of, we got to do that. So how do we do that? How do we get strong enough to do that? And I think that some people might say that means that Warframe might be ending soon, which I think it does need to end soon, because it's been going on for so long. And especially with Soulframe coming out next. But you're right, Greg, that is a problem that a lot of games have, where they're trying, especially live service games, where they're trying to service it's more than just the new players and the old players, but they're trying to service all these different types of players, and they end up not making anyone happy. So with this, I'm hoping that it kind of brings everyone together. Like, at least everyone is trying to get to the point where they're trying to beat these in-game bosses, and they're trying to get these crystals that give these permanent buffs. Like, everyone's trying to do that, at least. Now, how we get there, maybe you need to level up your this system, where it has the avatar system that they have in the game, where you level up the actual Tenno, or maybe they're trying to level up their guns, or maybe they're trying, whatever they need to do to get there. I think it's going to also be a more challenging path, because now that they're nerfing all of the sit in a space and spam kind of things, I think that because the other problem is, you can join, I'm not sure, Navy, if you found this to be a problem, but you can join random lobbies, and there'll be just people be so powerful, they're just like destroying everything. So you kind of have this feeling like, why am I here? You don't usually have that feeling, particularly because you're like, oh, at least I can, it helps to grind. But there's this whole thing of like, I'm not really important to the game, like there's nothing for me to do. Now that they can still be OP and kill 1 or 2 enemies, they can't kill the whole room as effectively as they could before.
So it's funny, because you're talking in terms of level progression, right?
Yeah.
I've had that happen in games with no level progression. I tried to get into Guilty Gear Xrd like a couple years after it came out, and there was one lobby. I'm not even lying. Literally, there was one lobby with 3 guys in there who were amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's not a counter stats thing. I just didn't know how to play the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like, I feel like games are moving away from this, like, because Xrd, right? That game is old, but the new Guilty Gear Strive is out. And I feel like that resets everything because now you have a healthy dose of new players that are So if you go play Strive, it's newer, so there's a ton of lobbies. But when you have games as a service, I'm guessing what I'm trying to say is how long is too long? How long can one game continue to run?
Yeah.
Like
That's it.
I've been playing League for over 10 years. 2008, 2009 when it first came out.
Mm.
It's like I can't imagine planning to play that game now. Like I still play it, but if I didn't play for 10 years, where would I even begin? There's like hundreds of champions, items, passives, abilities. It's like, where do you jump in on that? And is it should the devs even worry about trying to get new people into it, or do you keep trying to make the old people happy? It's
Yeah.
At what point does League of Legends 2 come out?
Facts.
Like
And yeah,
moving away from that model.
you're right. That
It's like no more 2. It's just this forever.
Mm-hmm.
and well, I think a lot of devs, when they start a live service game, especially now, don't ever want to make a sequel, right? They want to be able to keep servicing the same game for as long as they possibly can, and as long as it's profitable, right?
Right.
They all will run into that problem of what do you do with the old content? Like a couple of weeks ago, Destiny got in trouble for, maybe it was more than a couple of weeks, but they got in trouble for removing content from the removing the early story content.
Mm-hmm. Vault,
After
that
having
vaulting.
having gone free to play, and they've now come out after their most recent expansion and said they're not going to remove any more content. Like they're not going to do that anymore. But I think what they found was the game got so bulky, it got so big, and you do have to keep hosting these old missions and everything and infrastructures on your servers. And I think what basically happens is as the game runs on for longer and longer and longer, although you have a goal of keeping it alive for as long as you can, you don't actually practically realize what that means for keeping certain content alive in terms of infrastructure and continuing to actually service old content in terms of bug fixing and anything and everything that goes into that, even just something as basic as server space. Like they have to continue to keep those servers running and keep servicing that area of it. And I don't even know with something like League of Legends or Final Fantasy 14. You're saying Warframe is running into that problem now. And fans get really upset when you turn off servers. No matter how small the community gets down the road, they do get upset when that happens because there will always be a small community that sticks with game X, right? It's always going to happen.
Right.
And yeah, something like Final Fantasy 14, I know, D, you've jumped into that in the last year or so. But I hear like horror stories of people trying to catch up to the most recent content, and it's literally hundreds of hours worth of story content to get to the most recent part.
Yeah.
And at that point, like it's more than a full-time job, right? Like you really have to be about that grind to catch up to all of that.
Yeah.
In 6 months, I'm trying to catch up. It's like, wow.
Yeah, but that's why where Warframe says the magic words "in game," I feel compelled to end my experience. It's like maybe I could put a bow on this, you know?
There's another aspect of this I want to talk about though, and it's the players themselves. Because I feel like we're talking about it from the devs' point of view, but let me put it this way, right? I started playing Multiverses when it came out, and the Warner Brothers fighting game. And one thing I've noticed about the community is that they want all this crap. Like, so I'm talking with some people on Reddit, and they're kind of like, well, if they don't get their acting gear and release more challenges and more things to do, people are gonna stop playing this game. I'm thinking to myself, I don't play Smash Brothers since I was 8 years old. No challenges, no missions.
Right.
You just it's a fighting game. You play it for fun.
No dailies.
Yeah,
no dailies.
Like, these people like there was like a 2-day lapse in the battle pass where there with no battle pass for 3 days, and people are losing their minds. Like, there's no reason for me to play without this battle pass. And I'm just like, shoot, that's crazy. It's a fighting game. You play it, it's fun. It's I don't know. It's weird to me. It's like, so maybe this is kind of hamstringing the developers, because even something like League, they started bringing in this like kind of progression system, battle passes, loot boxes, the whole thing. And I've never played League for that. We just play with your friends. But now I feel like people expect things, and it's kind of like the developers have to keep making this like mindless content.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just feels weird.
Yeah, I think
But
definitely.
But that is the live service model as we know it, right? It's inherently repetitive. You give people small tasks that they can complete, a few that they can complete in like say half an hour of gameplay, so that you end up servicing the people that can only play games for 20 minutes, half an hour a day because they have so much else going on, or
they're
yeah, but absolutely, they don't care about immersion. It's a certain type of game. I wouldn't call it something like low quality, but it's very simple, and it's just some people would describe it negatively as like the ADD-ification of gaming.
The issue is that I feel like it could be good. Like there's potential there, but how do I put this? We're not there technology wise, I don't think. Like, I feel like back in the day, and I feel like my point of view on a lot of things, I played games a lot more when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna say I'm jaded towards games today, but it's there a little bit. So I just feel like
we all are a little bit in our way.
games had shorter development times. Like, if I think of like, you bring up like Banjo-Kazooie. Watch the credits of that game. 11 people worked in that game. A couple of programmers, artists, musicians, a writer. Not a huge number of people. Not a huge budget. Not a bunch of people. Making over $100,000 a year to pay for 5 years to make a game. Things come out quickly. Like, look at Final Fantasy, right? During the PS1 era, Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 came out. But once the graphics got bigger, once the production got bigger, we started adding in voice actors, these giant worlds, realistic graphics. Games take years and years to come out. All of a sudden, it's like you can't put out like Elden Ring, right? That game came out. It was great. One purchase, all these hours, amazing. I guarantee you they lost money on that. As successful as it was.
No, they didn't. And that's another misconception. Like, almost
lose money. Do they lose money? Like, no, but did they make as much money as something like God of War, where you can buy level 100? Like, you know what I mean? Or something like Fire Emblem Heroes, right? Has made more money in 5 years than every other Fire Emblem game is made in 30. And it's just like, I feel like the incentive to make a good game isn't there anymore, because
yeah, the money is with the microtransactions for sure.
The money's in the bullshit.
Oh yeah, and I've recently read I think I shared it with you, D, an article about Genshin Impact.
Oh,
and
yeah.
how much it actually costs them. Like, they've made billions in these 2 years?
Yes.
But they've spent like over 200 million servicing the game.
Yeah.
So I think more companies need to come to realize that as much as you can make from microtransactions, servicing the game does cost a lot of money. And again, like you said, we're looking at it from the dev side. Looking at it from the consumer side, yes, lots of companies are going that route, but I think there is also not an equal, but close to equal and opposite voice of fans and players who do not mess with microtransactions at all. And I try to be in that group as much as possible.
That's
right?
true.
I hear live service game, and I pretty much just stay away from them. I played Destiny 1, I played Destiny 2 for a few months each. I don't think I made it to an expansion in either game. And I play Avengers. But in none of these games do I spend money.
See,
I just don't do it. And
that's why they go for whales, though.
there's
Think
but
about it, right? Like a game
the
costs 60. The most expensive game today is what?
70.
70, 75. Sony probably 80.
Unless
No,
you're a Yeast sold their game for, I think, for like $80 or $90.
So that's one person spending that much money, right? The
Yeah.
problem with these games work is that they're not even going for us regular people. Like us, if we spend $100, $10, $50, it doesn't matter. That is not what they're going for. They're going for that one dude out of 100 who's gonna spend $1,000.
Yeah.
You know how many people it would take to get to each of us paying, $50 for a game to get $1,000?
Yeah.
They're going after the people who are going to spend this monthly, and it's wild because the amount of people, like, I did the math. The amount of people who fund Genshin is like less than 1% of the player base. Most people are playing for free.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's
you
why.
Also have to remember that you have to be a successful live service game to get to that point.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
There are many that have failed.
True.
And
there will be many that fail.
Genshin is so conflicting because on one hand you have these developers who are absolutely amazing at what they're doing, and then right on the flip coin you have like the producers who's monetizing it. They're like, nah. Nah, we're gonna make these weapons cost $1,500.
That's true, and that's why. But I think that's why it was kind of positive news for Warframe this last couple of weeks. I think it was either last week or this week, because majority of the money I spent, because I did spend about $2,500 on Warframe over 3 years, which sounds really disgusting, and because it is. But majority of that money that I spent was on the purchasing the Warframes, because I never wanted to grind the Warframes. So that's why they also caught my attention when they said that the 50th Warframe, they're going to give them away for free. So if you log in within the first 2 weeks of the update. So I think that, while we're on this topic of like how microtransactions are ruining a lot of the more coveted gaming experiences, because it's just not the money people earn from putting the time into making these dedicated experiences. Because I know we talked about, me and you, we talked about Greg, we talked about the experience of Chrono Trigger just from the beginning, compared to a lot of these games that I've played. Because I haven't played a lot of these old school RPGs until now. I'm realizing now how much I was missing in terms of game design and just things that people throw into games that enhance the experience. So the other two things I want to talk about for me, what happened this week was.
I do want to go back a little bit first.
Oh, go ahead.
There's a little something wrong. I don't blame the microtransactions. The microtransactions are a symptom of the problem. The problem is not the microtransactions. The problem is that Sony in the 90s went and tried to become Pixar. And they boosted like the development cost of games so much. Like, if you look at how much it costs to produce a 64 game and a PS1 game versus like a PS2 game or a PS3 game, astronomical. The price for those HD graphics is so much, and they went and tried to be Pixar, and they boosted the industry along with it. So now there's no choice. You know what I mean? You can't pay 11 people to make a game anymore. It's impossible. Nobody's gonna buy that game. It's gonna have shit graphics.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
Acting. It's not gonna have a commercial on TV. You can't make it. It's like.
Well, so I think Sony is. I'm not sure how much this relates, but I think Sony is being sued now for some of their practices of monopolizing at least their storefront. That's causing developers to overprice, and that's definitely being addressed for sure. I agree with you. It's part of the problem, the cost of gaming. I think even there was a video I watched on YouTube about how the price of games aren't. It's like have not been affected by inflation for a very long time. So
Yeah.
it's like there's the other side of it. Like, what is the true cost of games? Like in terms of like
Like
the value that
like are the necessary evil. The
yeah.
problem was said, hey, you got Square Enix, you want to put your games on a CD? And they were like, fuck yeah, we want to put our games on a CD.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
that was part of it, right? That was part of the change because the CDs were actually cheaper to make than the cartridges. So where they saved on production cost of and copying costs and all of that on producing a CD rather than a cartridge, they could invest more into in-game
yeah.
content and
Yeah.
creating whatever. And it also allowed them to use FMV. So
Yeah.
where the N64 was actually a more powerful console, it couldn't produce the cutscenes that were in Final Fantasy VII. Obviously, the actual gameplay didn't look as good, but the cutscenes looked incredible.
Yeah.
And that was part of them, like you say, wanting to become Pixar, making these almost high budget movie scenes in between their games, in between the gameplay. You look at games like Final Fantasy and Metal Gear Solid,
right.
were both like that.
Right.
That's why after GameCube, Nintendo had to like back out and like, yo, we can't afford this.
Yeah. So
I can't get Microsoft and Sony.
yeah, so that was the major news that happened for me this week. Was just kind of, I've been bashing Warframe I've stopped playing it. I came back to play it with Navy, and sometimes I play it, but I think this news is positive going forward for one of the OG live service games, and I'm glad it spawned this great conversation on live service is a problem that I think the industry is still trying to figure out. But I think especially this for the simple fact that the new leadership is also diverse. It's a good look that they're moving in, I think, a more positive direction for a genre that has been kind of I don't know, getting kind of stale. Like I said, we have a lot of problems with like them trying to serve two sides of the coin, and the whole idea of like for a long time with Warframe was are they even going to put an end game into the game? So I think that this sets a good example going forward for other games to kind of follow after, especially since Warframe is looked at so fondly by other developers in the industry. So I was pretty excited about that. But enough about that. What have you guys particularly seen that's interesting this week in video games?
Want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, okay. Well, it was Gamescom week before this week.
Yeah, it could be weeks
and
past. I know there's a lot of things that might have happened, but
so there's been a reveal of a bunch of new games, a lot of new gameplay shown for a few new games. And one that's really caught my eye, I know I spoke to you about it briefly already, was Flintlock.
Yeah, I remember seeing.
I think obviously there's a lot of games that are trying to use the FromSoft model, the Souls-like subgenre that's around now. You look at games like Thymesia that's come out lately. There's been a bunch. I'm not going to reel them all off, but this one caught my eye in particular, just because I think what they've done with this, or seem to have done with this, is they've looked at the genre, but also looked at other games that are similar that aren't necessarily in the genre. So they've mentioned their influence from FromSoft game, but also their influence from God of War, and you can see that that God of War influence in the way that the character wields their weapon, which happens to be like a small axe or hatchet. That's probably too big to be a hatchet. A small axe, and some of the movements and the way that enemies respond and things like that. But then they've also combined that with a much richer traversal system, and you have a companion, which is some kind of alien cat thing that comes around with you and talks. And then they've also added the environments. You can like clear out a settlement of enemies and new people will move in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like some of those changes that they've made to the normal formula, the normal genre, as well as adding difficulty settings, they've sort of looked at what FromSoft does and at least tried to make it better. And I think I know Greg's a big FromSoft Dark Souls guy, but
Yeah,
that community is very that community is very protective of the normal practices in that genre.
Yeah.
And I think what they've done, it's the makers of Ashen as well. They had a previous game in the genre. They've tried to sort of improve on the formula, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's out early next year.
Awesome.
Honestly, I really want to try that. I really want to see what another developer does with that series, because I'm really disillusioned with From Software lately.
Okay.
It's like the further they get away from the original Dark Souls, it's like they keep missing the point. It's like Dark Souls 2, we're not gonna count Dark Souls 2. That was kind of a weird one. But I just feel like
it wasn't Miyazaki, was it? That's the only one that he didn't direct.
The only one, yeah. So I'm not gonna really count that one, but I feel like Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and then even Elden Ring, it's like they're going off in a different direction from what the original Dark Souls even was. And I feel like at the same time, the rest of the industry is kind of like using the post Dark Souls game as like the blueprint for what the games are, and it's like, no, you guys are missing the point. This is all wrong. You know, an example. I don't know how into music you guys are, but there's a genre called shoegaze.
Yeah.
That popularized by a group called My Bloody Valentine in like the 80s. And this is how the way I feel about that band is how I feel about Dark Souls, where they put out one good album, Loveless, and everybody copied that album. But nobody really got that copying that album right. And it's been 50, 40 years since then. And it's a whole genre, but nothing has surpassed the original. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about all these Souls games. It's like they're not really action games, but Elden Ring is making me sweat. And time, you know, time is just, it's like they heard that people wanted a hard game. It was like, oh, we got you. We're gonna give you a hard game, but that's not necessarily why Dark Souls was good, because it was hard. It was, you know, it was an aspect of it.
That's interesting. That's interesting you say that.
So I'm honestly, what you said about the you know, I think I forgot what you said the name of the game was. Ashen Sands or something.
Oh, Flintlock.
Ashen was their first game. Then the new game is Flintlock.
Flintlock, all right, got you. That sounds interesting because it really sounds like they're trying to, like, you know, reinvent what's going on instead of just like, you know, saying, hey, I think people want a hard game. Let's put some bullshit in here.
True.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of that. Elden Ring, I love that game. Really pissed me off.
No, I feel you on that. So I wanted to kind of jump. Unless Greg, do you have any news this week you wanted to kind of caught your eye from gaming that you wanted to touch on? Okay, so what are we currently playing? Now I have a lot to say on this. So I see Navy just joined us back. Navy, do you have anything that caught your eye this week from what's going on in gaming?
This week, honestly, I haven't been too focused on like new in gaming, only because I start my new job Monday. So I've kind of been
by the way.
I appreciate it. I've been kind of like, you know, trying to refresh myself and catch up and learn what I can, just, you know, kind of benefit me.
Got you. Anything you want to share about the new 2K news?
From what I have seen that the game is going to be it was described as very, very, very different and more of like it should be taken as a learning experience, which I'm kind of actually happy about that. I feel like everybody should start from a nice medium ground zero.
Yeah.
But it depends on. I don't want to see a builder system that is money hungry, if that makes sense.
Oh, we know it's gonna be money hungry.
I mean, yeah, probably, but I don't want a builder system that requires you to build, like, make your build and invest into it just to see how it's really actually going to play. When you guys, we don't even get a demo anymore, let
Right.
alone a prelude.
Yeah, we're getting further,
Oh
and that's
man.
I'm concerned
And
about
then,
that because we're getting further
two,
away
I
from
don't,
that.
I don't know if a lot of people noticed or realized or not, but 2K Day, it was a private event this year, right?
Yeah.
A private event that content creators had to sign NDAs and things of that nature to even, attend, stay, whatever the case may have been, even talk about it. And the 2K version that they played was like a demo version of the game.
And it's like, why can't we get that?
No, but it's like it's not even a finished version.
Yeah.
Oh, they gave him okay. They didn't give him the updated version.
And it's like, why couldn't we at least get that? You're right. Why can't we get that? Give me something. Give me something to work with here. And then they can't talk about it until y'all talk about it. And it's going to be the same info that y'all gave us. Nothing new, nothing different. But give me the opportunity to try the freaking game before
Spend your
you
money.
ask for my money.
Yeah. Yeah, I ended up buying it $100 down the drain, and it's the VC that they give us is probably not going to be enough to max the player out.
How
So
much you get for the $100 edition?
you get 50,000 VC, I think it is, or 100,000 VC. I don't know. I didn't really look. I just pressed a button to buy it, honestly, because I'm a 2K.
And like,
What is
but
it?
that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. That's the one thing. Like they did, I liked all the changes that they mentioned, but it's like I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure out
Um,
before I
I
invest.
did like the change for the shot for the your shot meter. There's a setting now. I guess you can leave it on, but change it to pro stick only, so you can determine what shots or layups get a meter or not. Which I kind of like that because it lets me determine the skill of the shot or the layup that I'm taking or dunk or whatever the case may be. If I'm on a fast break and it's just me, I can hold square, normal no meter. But if I'm on a fast break and I got a guy on my hip,
Yeah,
now I can use the right stick, and if I time it better than he does, boom, I got a layup or a dunk or whatever the case may be. I'll take that.
awesome. Um, cool. So now I want to move on to what we're currently playing. And again, like I said, I have a lot to say on this topic because I've been playing Genshin and Tower Fantasy, so it's a lot for me to say. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of take this, what you're currently playing, how you feeling about it, um, things like that.
I don't mind going first and just keeping it brief. I'm I was meant to this summer get through Ghost of Tsushima and jump
Mm,
to either The Last of Us 2 or Guardians of the Galaxy. But I got the platinum in Ghost of Tsushima and then started playing multiplayer,
mm-hmm.
and that has just completely captured me for the last weeks.
Yeah,
And obviously, everyone knew this from 2 years ago, or a year ago when the multiplayer came out. But they added to it. There will be no more additions, but there's a proper end game to the multiplayer now. So
yeah,
anyone that sort of played for a while and then jumped off early doors, there's actually a fair amount of content in there for you to build towards. There's a raid for you to do, etc., etc., leaderboards and all kinds of stuff. But it just blows my mind that the people that made what did Sucker Punch make? The people that made Infamous could pivot to a open world game based in Japan, and then B create such an incredible multiplayer.
yeah,
Like this is what happened with The Last of Us as well. I know where you have a game that's mostly stealth action game, heavily story based, and then they made this incredible multiplayer game on the side. And yeah, Sucker Punch have gone out and done that as well. And yeah, it just blows my mind that the same developers could do those two things so well. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I never made it to The Last of Us 2 or Guardians of the Galaxy, at least not yet.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've definitely played that with you, Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer. It has been a lot of fun. You kind of revived it for me. But it's just we're just adding to the legend that is Ghost of Tsushima. What a great game.
Great game.
I do need to put that back on my. I have the game, and like you said, it was one of those I didn't come back to it, and I kind of want to. I've been wanting to.
It's worth it. It's one of those. Even if you don't get through it, when you come back, you'll always. It's guaranteed that you'll hit a point where you'll enjoy yourself. At a level, at a high level. It may not be like my type of game, but it's undeniable that like when I'm in the throes of it, I'm like blown away at the detail of the combat and just the moments that we're able to create. Like me and Venom were playing, and there were so many moments where like, oh, we're gonna lose that spot, hit your ult, and he does a little ult, and it just like, wow, like, man. Or like there was times where like I was in trouble and Venom would be like up on the roof and like when he was using his hunter and like he is his ult at the right moment, take out all the people that were on the spot, or just failure moments that were just incredible, like, oh, I can't believe that we lost, like, oh my god. Like it creates all these different type of moments, and I think that's what at the end of the day what gaming is about, is having those incredible rare moments, in
Those genuine moments.
Yeah, genuine moments. And Ghost of Tsushima is just it's just a great game. That I'll probably never finish the single player, but I can't deny it. Greg, what you playing?
Right, so I'm a little. I resurrected my my 3DS.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Called Radiant Historia. And it's goddamn fun. Let me tell you, it's turn based, but it's like grid based. So all the people have like that kind of shift you around the battlefield, like, pushing people back.
Yeah, strategy, real time strategy.
Real time strategy mixed with turn based. It's also like time travel based. The story is really interesting. Basically, you can travel around in different what if scenarios and kind of play the story from like multiple different angles and try to find the true route to the ending. I guess I just kind of started it, but it's fun. And I always say this. I think the DS, the whole like DS 3DS line, the best system for playing RPGs on. It's like literally perfect. Like everything's on the main screen, but the bottom screen has like a map. You can use the pilot select things. It's so comfy for playing RPGs. I just when I started playing, I was like, oh, I missed this.
Yeah, you made me want to actually, and I keep talking about it, but I'm gonna get that emulator and I'm gonna start playing those, because Greg got me into playing RPGs, because I had missed that whole time of my life, and oh man, like I can't wait to jump into it. I've currently been playing, I was playing Star Ocean, but I've jumped into Chrono Trigger, which is playing like a thing in the background as we're talking, but I've definitely seen the magic, and it's undeniable. It's like, oh, I got to do it. So it's giving me so much more breadth of content to play.
It's like slower, but it's good if you just want to get comfy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get you some snacks.
Yeah.
It's like,
but also playing them on those platforms, on those consoles, you can carry them around. So sometimes, like especially with the 3DS, where you can literally just close the screen. I think that was something they added with the DSi, was it? Where you can just close the screen and then open it again, and you're in the exact same place. So even if you're in a long section of the game, it's not that difficult to jump in and jump out. And I love that about the portable consoles. Yeah, definitely the best way to play RPGs.
I like the Switch, but the 3DS is just different. And I have the 2DS XL, I think it's the best version of the 3DS.
Mm.
Oh, it's nice.
Awesome. Navy, do you have anything you want to talk about you're currently playing? I don't know if he's away, but okay. All right. I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible, but there's a lot to say. Okay, so I've been playing Genshin Impact, Tower of Fantasy, Star Ocean, and Chrono Trigger. That's a lot. It is a lot to manage, being a functioning adult. But I want to start with Genshin Impact. They just dropped their Sumeru update, and I know Genshin Impact. I feel like every time I mention the name, it's like I'm sinning. Because it's a game that just begs you to spend money. But Sumeru came out, and it was an undescribable feeling because, or is it undescribable or indescribable? I don't know, but indescribable because basically I had been waiting 2 years for this update to drop. And I don't think I've ever done that in gaming where I literally waited. The last time I waited super long for something was Kingdom Hearts, and by the time the game came out, I just lost all interest in playing it. But I think I waited for Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts was it?
Kingdom Hearts 3.
that came out like last year.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah, I know. And I waited like how long when was that
decade,
announced?
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it more than a decade? Yeah.
I waited so long, and I bought in the process of waiting for that game, I bought everything Kingdom Hearts. Like when I first got the ability to play Kingdom Hearts, because I knew about the game before I had the system to play it. So I would play it at friends' house and everything. People that I knew had the game. And when I bought like the collector's edition, and I was just like, I felt like I was a Kingdom Hearts like aficionado,
Right.
you know. And then, but like, as soon as they announced the game was actually coming out, like the moment they announced it, I lost all interest. Like I was just like, it was like the opposite effect. And I
in that game when I bought a PlayStation 3 for the game, and then the game came out on the PlayStation 4, and I almost didn't play 3 except for Dark Souls. So I mean, thank God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so
that's why I refuse to play that remake. That's Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah,
because y'all are crazy. That final version of that game is going to come out on the PS6.
Yeah,
and they're not. But it's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So Sumeru came out, and the best way I can describe it is like Genshin Impact started over. I really do believe that the first 3 places they released were like their first go, and then Sumeru like reset everything, because it was like jumping into Mondstadt for the first time. And it's like, except there was like improvements to the traversal. Like they have these little things you can like zip line around, which is amazing, because the game before it added that, you know, it was kind of like you have this mountain to climb up, and you just spent so much time getting up the mountain. And now you could just kind of zip around. And it legitimately made me not use the fast travel. Like I was just running from place to place. They had like more real-time events. So like if you think like Red Dead or games like that, where you walk around and like something's happening, and there's more, and there's so many incredible improvements they made in Sumeru, where it's like there's these random events that happen in Mondstadt and Liyue sometimes, where like you have to help these people out because like they'll be surrounded by monsters. But the same thing has happened in Sumeru, except for the guy that I've been helping out is actually a researcher, and like his research is actually improving. Like it's a continuation of a story. And I just thought that little detail was so cool, because now that every time Pieman goes, oh my God, that guy needs help. And they do need to improve where you can kind of see where the guy is, because I don't really know. Sometimes they don't put a marker down. But when I find the guy, I'm so excited to know like what's going to happen now in his story of this research he's doing on the monsters in Sumeru. And the mainline story was so good. It was like equivalent to, I think, the Raiden Shogun storyline, because it dealt with it dealt with some of the things that we've been wondering about Sumeru and what exactly is going on there, which I thought was very interesting the way that they did it. Of course, they're dealing with different dimensions, time loops, or maybe not time loops, time manipulation, things like that, which is can go wrong really quickly. But I think that they've kept the story pretty contained so that you don't have so many plot holes when you're dealing with these things. And it's been a pleasant experience going to the different ports. The natural traversal, which in any open world game, the traversal I feel like is paramount. When they say go to this area and they put a marker on their map, and then you decide to get in a boat and go down this river, and it leads you to that place. It's like, but you didn't have to like follow like a dotted line on the ground, where you could just kind of naturally think about how you want to get there, and then it actually works. That speaks to the design of the world being very well thought out. How you naturally come across some of the caves and how it ties into the story. Something cool they did that I recently just found was like there was a cave that was part of the main side quest story that I cleared, and I went back to it and something new was happening, and one of the things that the creatures that I interacted with earlier was there again, and there was a new story surrounding it, and it tied back to the story. Like that kind of stuff is what these old classic RPGs were made of. So I think what's being lost is that, yeah, these companies are hard pressed to include these kind of things, but I think that Genshin is really making an effort. Is it quite there? No, but I see the effort, and I'm enjoying it. So Sumeru, A++ from me. The new element is great. It adds a lot of different gameplay options. And the new Spiral Abyss was difficult for me to complete finally. So I had a real challenge. Like it got so challenging for me that I had to like move my computer to my bed so that I can like spend more time playing it before I go to sleep. Because I was almost like, I'm not going to sleep until I beat this. So that was pretty cool. It's not cool because it's a gacha game, and the thought does cross your mind of like, maybe I need to spend money to be able to beat this. But despite Genshin being a sin and being a gacha game from hell, I think the actual game in there is actually improving and is in a good place that a lot of people will not experience because of the fact that it's a gacha game and it's terrible. But for those who do experience it, I feel like they are getting better. There is RPG like improvements. Now a lot of people are looking for this like in-game content, like improvement to the battle system. I don't think that that's pretty much there at all, but I'm not really looking for that. I do enjoy the story of Genshin and the RPG elements. On the flip side, Tower Fantasy has been a miserable experience. It's an open world game that's kind of, people say, copied off of Genshin, but that's kind of a stupid argument. But
that game looks like 3 other games like mashed together.
It is, and you know, there is fun to be had in the game, but I've hit the wall of this game. And I'm going to briefly describe the experience that it's been. Because the game is more co-op and more multiplayer, more MMO-like, so you see other people, you're constantly being berated by how shitty your gear is, how shitty your account is. Where in Genshin, because co-op is so optional, you don't see a lot of the, like, I don't see the fact that I'm doing crap damage compared to a whale, and I could beat the Spiral Abyss and feel good about myself because that's the hardest part of the game, and so it doesn't entice you to spend money from that aspect. But Tower Fantasy is like constant, like it's so much multiplayer content, which is good, but then you jump in it and it's like, to give you an example, every day you have energy to spend, and I go into these joint operations, and there's at least always like one whale that's doing 10 million points of damage, and I'm doing 500,000. And it's just like, over time, people could say, well, that doesn't matter, it doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does. It does. Over time, it's like, you can't be berated. Like, it's like a test of how much you could be berated and told subconsciously that your account is trash before you actually do something about it. And the only thing you could do is spend money, because the way the system is set up is that, yeah, in Tower Fantasy, and I said this in a YouTube video that I've now taken down early on my channel, that, you know, Tower Fantasy is much better and easier to get the SSR equipment and weapons. It is, but here's the catch, and I'm gonna tell you the catch. Basically, they have this thing called combat score, and you need a certain combat score to unlock different things in the game. But if you don't have those weapons at multiple copies of those weapons up to at least 3 stars, the 6-star weapons of the lower version, so the SR versions, are going to give you more combat score. So let me give you an example. Our new Ruin opens up. The Ruin is like the individual solo dungeons, and they say you need a 23,000 combat score. You have all your favorite weapons equipped, all at 1 star, because you only got 1 copy of it. You were happy because you got multiple copies of these gold weapons, right? You're happy, so you equip all of them, and you max them out, all the levels of everything, your gear, your matrices, which is like your artifacts. You max them all out. Your combat score is 21,000, so you can't do this Ruin. I mean, you could. You're probably going to die because you're not. The combat score is reflective of your ability to do it. So you don't have the 23,000 combat score, but then you realize that you have 6-star SR weapons, which are the weapons that nobody wants to use, and you put one of those on, and your combat score goes up 400 points. So now you can do it. And it's like, now you're realizing that, oh my God, I'm nerfing my progression by using the weapons that I want because I haven't got them enough times to be more effective than the 4-star weapons or the SR weapons that nobody wants to use. So people are in this weird spot where they're trying to keep up combat score wise, but in order to do that, they have to use weapons they don't want to use. And the cool weapons that you've been lucky, quote unquote, lucky enough to get are not high enough because you don't have enough dupes of them. So it's this weird spot that people are in, and I'm in the same spot where it's just like, I've been lucky enough to get 2 SSR weapons to 3 stars, but I'm still using 1 SR weapon to keep my combat score up. And people say, well, that's just to do the Ruins. No. There's a thing called your suppressor. And in order to unlock the suppressor, you have to reach a certain combat score. So you're chasing this combat score in all these different ways. And that, once you hit that spot, it's like you're in this spot where you're just kind of trudging along. You're not strong enough. It's like there's no part of the game that makes you feel good anymore, because you don't have the weapons. You can't use the weapons that you want to use unless you want to just nerf your progression, which is fine. I guess you could do that. You're no longer getting MVP for any of the joint operations. Because your progression is stunted, and the people who have spent money are, going to get MVP. They're going to do way more damage than you. The raid that I was initially excited about, I thought that, when it comes global, people were going to be I was going to be able to do it more often. I joined random lobbies. I could not finish it one time. This was like 20 attempts. It got to the point where I would join the raid and I would say, communicate or I leave. I would just type that, communicate or I leave. Because in the raid, you have to send buffs to people. Like if I'm the tank, people have to send me the tank buffs. People were not sending me the tank buffs, and they were just collecting the keys and fighting the boss and losing. And I was like, we're losing because, yeah, we don't have whales this time, but we're losing because no one's sending the buffs. If everyone is sending the buffs, then us as low spenders or free to play will be able to do this. I've done it in the China version, but I thought that the China version that I played was like that because I couldn't speak the language. No, people just suck. So I ended up having to ask my crew, which I'm in this guild, to do the raid with me. The problem with that is it's much easier to just matchmake. I mean, yeah, I can ask my crew to do it. There might be people on, but if there's nobody on, now I can't do content at the time that I need to do it. I have to schedule it with people, and that becomes a problem. Yeah, I can schedule stuff, but sometimes you just want to hop on the game, do your stuff and get off, you know? And it just messes up your own flow. So anyway, Tower Fantasy, I've been playing it. It's been miserable experience, and I'm kind of sad about it because that was supposed to be the other game that kind of fills in that gap of time. But I'm kind of happy about it because now I can put that time into games I want to play, like Chrono Trigger and Star Ocean, which are single player experiences that don't have any time gates. So I've kind of just, I put Tower Fantasy in that droppable category. Like I might just drop it off, and just forget about it, which is kind of sad.
Ben dropped it.
Because the positive thing is they're coming out with their new 2.0 update, and what they have for that game that's coming out as far as the mini games looks exciting. Like they're going to have like a racing game that you can do. The city that they're coming out with looks exciting. So that's why I'm kind of holding on that maybe these mini games and other side content, because I love side content. Like the perfect game for me would be a wide game where it has combat but also has like other things you could do. Speaking of other things you can do, Genshin Impact is coming out with a trading card game, I've heard through the grapevine. And I'm really excited about that because, like I said, I love side content, like anything that I can do in addition.
In the game.
Yes.
It's in the game, or it's okay.
It's going to be coming out in the game. They might try to do like a separate thing, like how Gwent for Witcher became something different. But
yeah.
I have not missed with trading card games and these type of games. Like I loved Gwent. I love the side content in Final Fantasy 14. I loved the little board game they had in Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Like anytime a game does this, I end up loving it. So I'm hoping that Genshin does something because they're supposedly supposed to have some kind of PvP with this. So that could be something really interesting for Genshin Impact. But I'm hoping that because it's PvP, it's not pay to win, but I can't I can't hold my breath on that. It's probably going to be pay to win because it's Genshin Impact. So they're probably going to be like, oh, get your SSR, card, pay $10 for the starter pack,
man, still in packs. Old school. The origin, still in packs.
But yeah, I'm playing Star Ocean. This is the last thing. I know this is long-winded, but I'm playing a lot of games. I have a lot to say, but Star Ocean, I'm playing the latest game of, I think it's Star Ocean 5. And that's the one that everybody hates and says it's like the worst one, but I'm actually having a great time with it. So it goes to show that how much stock you can put into like community accepted reviews of games. I'm having a great time with it. Like people mostly complained about like the combat, you can't see things, and I'm not finding that. I mean, maybe because I play a lot of games that have a lot of explosions and things going on, but also people talk about like the cutscenes are real time, and I think they're actually technologically amazing because in these cutscenes you literally walk into and there's no like cutaway. But if you look at the faces of the characters, they're actually emoting while the cutscene is happening. And it's all in real time. I'm actually amazed by it. And I could see the developers being kind of disillusioned that people hated this because they say that people are just standing around talking and there's like no actual cutscene. But sometimes I get taken out of the game from cutscenes. Like it goes to cut to black, you can't move your character, and it's like this predetermined cutscene. I like the idea of real-time cutscenes. So maybe I would have been the guy that, like, if I was working at the company, I would have been the guy that had this idea and everybody hated it and they'd be like, oh, it's your fault. Maybe I'll be that guy in this scenario. But I'm enjoying it. And lastly, I want to say that a game that just came out that I did play for an extended amount of time, co-op, Saints Row. Man, that game is so bad. Oh my god. I've been holding it in. I haven't given my opinion about this game, but I didn't buy it because the talk around the game is really bad, and I've bought a lot of bad games like Anthem and a lot of games that didn't pan out, like Cyberpunk 2077. Even though Cyberpunk redeemed itself for me, but that it had a horrible launch. Saints Row is so bad in the sense of people ask like, why is it bad? The way that the AI is programmed and the way that the characters move is like jumping backwards in time to like early, like Greg, you know, we talked about this, like when we moved from like the 2D to like the 3D. Some of the programming is like early 3D programming, where it's like
Sonic.
Yeah, it furthers it furthers my like conspiracy that like American developers are just not as good on the whole.
I wouldn't say that because there are some really good American developers. Like I would say like Retro Studios, for example, that have never put out a bad game.
True.
Is American based, and then I can just easily go and bring up a company like Shun Spikesoft that's Japanese that makes terrible games consistently every year.
Yeah.
It's more of a just some studios just suck.
Yeah, they you know, I can see them trying, but like, and it's really, it put me in this weird position because it's like the game is much better than anything I could personally do. Like, so it's not bad. Like if one of your friends made this game, you'd be like made Saints Row and you played it, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is actually really good. But because our standards are so high, it's like Saints Row just falls completely short in like almost every aspect. There were so many glitches and bugs and just like something that was hilarious, like when you're driving a car and you get out of the car, sometimes you like, because there's this whole feature where you can like lay on top of the car. So several times I tried to get out of the car, just get out of the car, and I guess I would hold the button too long and he would just lay on top of the car. And it's so annoying, but it's so funny at the same time. It's like, because I was playing co-op and I was like, oops, I'm on the car, and I would just and it just, oh man, like that's
funny.
It's, you know, from a co-op perspective, there is fun to be had. Like I'm not gonna say I didn't have zero fun, like just shooting things, but it's just not it. And I'm so glad I didn't buy it. And yeah, so that's what I've been playing this week. I'm gonna pass it to you guys if you have any other things you want to say about what you've been playing. I guess I could tie that into a review as well, but yeah, Saints Row is bad.
I'm also playing Genshin, but at my own pace. I suck at playing Genshin. Like, I'm still in the Nazuma.
That's all right. That's
like,
all right.
I'm like, you know, just raising people. I like raising people, you know.
You guys Zhongli the other day.
I did get.
How was Zhongli, by the way?
He's not leveled yet, but I can kind of tell how he's gonna invalidate the game for me. I just stand there, rotation, dodging. I use Kokomi, and I'm so used to like positioning around a jellyfish, you know, making sure I don't die, dodging attacks. But now it's just like, yo, I'm just gonna stand here.
Yeah.
You can't break my shield.
Right.
And he's level 70.
Right.
Level 6 shield. Level 0 artifacts. Nobody's breaking it. I think one Ruin Guard broke it once.
Right.
But he got something coming for him.
Well, I know more than half the year has gone past, so there's a lot of games we've probably played and wanted to like kind of rate at this point. But this is the last topic and section of our little podcast here. Any impressions or reviews you want to talk about from the year, and then we'll just go from here. You know, games you want to praise, or you know, games you want to shit on. Just. And I can go first. I just want to touch on Horizon. I thought it was a fantastic game. I've been upset at some of the revisionist kind of history that's come out, where I knew it was going to happen, where people, you know, originally said that Horizon wasn't as good because it came out at the same time as Elden Ring. And now I'm starting to see, like, in the last month, I've seen some of these big YouTubers recommend it to me that are saying, like, Horizon's just bad. It's just bad, and that's what we're going with. And I've watched those videos, and like the guy was complaining that you had to like pick up arrows Like, why is that still a system in the game? Like that you have to like craft your own arrows, and I just
Right.
think like that's a fundamental part of the game. Like the whole, I feel like one of the reasons Horizon was created was to give people like a realistic or approximating realistic like being in the wild and having to craft your arrows. So I feel like it's just so fundamental to the game to criticize it. It's like, why would you even pick up Horizon at that point?
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
I've heard that criticism or a similar criticism, not to do with the arrows, but to do with just picking up resources, right? Like
yeah,
some people have an aversion to games where they make you, you know, pick up flowers, pick up plants, hunt for small animals, little things like that. Whereas I think, yeah, like you're saying, I think it sort of adds to the uh, atmosphere of the game, the feel of the game, where you are there. There's a lot of tribal. There are literally tribes. There's a lot of the environment that you're in isn't an automated one,
right,
right? It's post-apocalyptic. But to not spoil the story for anyone that hasn't played it, you have essentially gone back in time because the world is in this state where people have gone back to living like tribal people live.
right,
So yes, you do have to hunt animals down to make certain things and pick up plants and forage and all of that kind of stuff.
right,
But there's a very clear in-game reason for it. It's
right.
not like they're making you do this for no reason.
Right, and it's like I've told you before, Venom, but I'm not particularly fond of the whole Monster Hunter like shoot a part off gameplay loop.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Mhm.
not for me. But I would never criticize Horizon for that being. I knew that going in. Like I'm going to have to shoot off parts. It's just the parts of the game that was a grind, and I had to like shoot off certain parts to get rare materials. I just never completed it.
Yeah,
because it's not for me. But to say that makes the game bad, it's just like you're talking about like a genre defining thing of the game.
We have to remember that the online landscape is kind of like an adult version or even a kid version of the playground. It's like, you know, remember he's like, oh, I had a Sega Genesis, I had a Super Nintendo, y'all was in it. It's the same way now.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, I was playing Elden Ring. I didn't play Horizon. Fuck Horizon. Elden Ring game. What's up?
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to glow up Horizon a little bit. I still think it's a clear game of the year contender, even though it won't win. I think it has everything to be that for me, and I don't want the narrative. As much as my 2 cents can push the narrative that was a great game, because it was, I just want to put it out there that I feel like that was a great game for a lot of different reasons. The camera work, the quest structure, the story, the gadgets, the tree, some of the challenging side content. And I played the game on the hardest difficulty. I felt like it was every bit well tuned. I mean, you can't say that about a lot of the games. You know, it's the right amount of challenge. Like for me, like I felt like it was well tuned. It's just a great game, just a fantastic game. Like anyway, that's what I want to kind of highlight in my review section. Y'all have anything y'all want to add or touch on? And going forward, we're going to touch more like games that are happening now, but it's been like we just starting and it's been like the whole year. So
yeah. I've actually played a lot of games this year. I am a backlog warrior. For those that don't know, that means that sometimes I don't play games when they first come out, and then I come back to them later on. And I've put a lot into clearing out my backlog. I have a pretty lengthy list, which I've posted on my Twitter at some point, of games that I have planned to get through. And I dubbed the period between the turn of the year and the release of Sifu, which was the week before the release of Horizon, which was the week before the release of Elden Ring. that little period at the start of the year was my sort of catch-up month. It was about 6 weeks, and I managed to get through quite a few games that I really enjoyed. I think the biggest one was probably Control, which is a few years old. Another game which came out to critical acclaim but didn't really capture the, I don't know, the word of mouth and have the same kind of popularity with people. It didn't sell that well, but it's a really good game. If you're into like creepy, not horror, more like thrillers, games that build an atmosphere and keep you on edge, I highly recommend that game. It's essentially a 3D action action game, but it's so much more than that when you actually get to play it and be put in that environment. And the story is unveiled in a really interesting way. And you're in the least interesting of environments. You're essentially in an office complex, but they managed to put all kinds of things in that place and make it extremely interesting. Yeah, I don't want to say too much about it, but it's a very, very good game. And then a bunch of smaller games. The aforementioned Sifu, which was out this year, it's still getting updates. There's a brand new update coming for it, which adds, I think it adds a couple of like in-game modifications. I can't remember exactly which ones they use, but it's a bit of a throwback to like old cheats that you could do in games, which should definitely be brought back. I think The Last of Us Part 1 has some in it, the remake. So yeah, Sifu's still getting updates, and Death's Door I played kind of at the start of summer, and that was a really awesome game. It's like a sort of not top down quite. It's kind of the same perspective or a similar perspective to like 2D Zelda games, and yeah, it's essentially a Zelda-like, which is also becoming a subgenre now. So many years after Zelda did it first. But yeah, that was a really good quality indie game that I'd like to highlight.
Awesome. How about you, Greg?
Is that the one where you like turn old or turn young or whatever?
Sifu is.
Okay, yeah, I thought
Yeah,
I've heard about that. I've never played it.
Oh, it's cool. If you like, it's like a brawler. It's like a 3D version of like Final Fight or Streets of Rage.
Interesting. Yeah, I heard a lot about that. Never played it because I don't.
Yeah, but it is really good. Yeah, it's like that, but it has more depth to it than that. You have moves that you can unlock, and there's like a parry system. Obviously, you can dodge, etc., etc. And then there's a story woven in, which is decent. And just if you have any interest in martial arts, I think it's must play. You can live out your martial arts movie fantasies with it.
Yeah, I heard the mods for the PC version are very, very interesting.
Oh, there's all kinds. Yeah, Daredevil, Batman. They've made all kinds of stuff, and it looks so authentic as well.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Greg? Anything you want to kind of highlight from the year so far?
I mean, mainly I was obsessed with Elden Ring for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get into that. But the game had a honeymoon phase at the very beginning where I was convinced.
Aren't they coming out with a DLC for it?
There's rumors, and honestly, latest I heard from Software, there was some type of thing where Tencent was trying to buy them or something, or Sony was trying to buy them, and it was a big.
Yes, Sony and Tencent purchased minority ownership in FromSoft, both of them.
That's kind of disappointing. But,
yeah.
Tencent is the devil.
I've heard a lot of bad things about Tencent.
Yeah, it's a Chinese company that makes a lot of mobile games, right?
Yeah, I think they also own stake in Warframe as well. That transaction happened, yeah, a long time ago. All right, well, guys, it's been fantastic. This is our first kind of get together, talk about these things. It's kind of, wanted to get all that off our chest. I've enjoyed it. I forgot we didn't even introduce ourselves, but that's all right. I'm Derwin. There's Venom, and for Snatchy. Yeah, so hopefully we could do this more often, and maybe people can play this in their car or whatever, listen to us rant on about video games. I quite enjoy it, and going forward we'll probably cover more things as they happen. But again, it's 8 months has gone by, so much that's happened this year. We couldn't possibly cover all of everything that's happened that we wanted to talk about, but going forward we might reach back and touch on things that we may as they come up. Anything you want to talk about, give you the floor to kind of talk about it, and we kind of react to it in real time and get into more of these discussions about where games are going. We touched on it in the beginning a little bit, so that's kind of what we're about. It's the past, present, and future of gaming. How does that all connect and interwove? We have a lot of interesting things that I want to talk about going forward about diversity in gaming, because I feel like it's not talked about enough, and it's a topic that's getting kind of out of hand in a lot of spaces. And I just kind of want to bring some sanity to that topic, because with a lot of things, even like Black Lives Matter or any of those like politically charged topics, I feel like it starts off where there's a legitimate problem, and then there's bad actors, and then the people who are fighting against the legitimate problem use the bad actors to kind of like marginalize the problem. And I see it happen over and over again, and I just kind of want to touch on that as we go forward, because there's some big milestones coming where I think Forspoken is, I don't know how much of a big milestone, but there's a Black female protagonist. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of things happening as far as diversity. Like I said, Warframe, with a now female lead game director and a Hispanic game designer. Like, it's a lot of things happening that we need to touch on. I think we need to highlight, because nobody else is.
GTA 6.
Oh yeah, GTA 6. So we're definitely going to talk about it and try not to be uncomfortable about it, and just kind of like, I want there to be more of a positive, because with this all anti-woke thing happening, I want there to be more of like a positive spin on diversity, because it is important. And I'm tired of either, F these whiteys being the whole like sentiment, and then the other side being like, oh, why should there be a Black person if there's not? Why we might as well add like a fat person, that being the counter argument. Like, oh, you just because you want a Black person in the game, I want a fat person to be in the game. It's like the two sides are just so far from the actual truth of things, that I just kind of want to bring that into our discussion and be kind of just start like a positive discussion of like not being too extreme, but also like getting these little victories and highlighting the little victories, because there are people that have been waiting a long time to, I'm sure like Rebecca at Warframe has waited a long time to sit in that chair, you know what I mean? And it's like, it does mean something that a woman is the game director for a game that as big as Warframe, successful as Warframe. So anyway, I want to end it here. Anybody have any closing comments?
Looking forward to keeping this up.
Yes, keeping it up. That is the main being consistent. We will, Greg. We have so many fantastic conversations. It's only going to get better from here and stronger from here, especially as we start sharing notes. I think that's the important thing, so we can kind of prep a little bit, not be like I said, I don't want us to take this just to distract from our normal lives. I want it to be just a fun addition. That makes sense. Yeah. So if it ever becomes too much of a burden, like I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to post it. Like we're just going to go. Like I just want it to be there. I want it to be up. I want it to be consistent and give us a space to really talk. And when I know it's working is when at the end of the week, everyone's excited to talk. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to share this information and with these guys. And for about, hopefully it's not like, because right now we're heading about, and I think we've been talking for like an hour and a half. So
Yeah.
I would like for it to be shorter, you know, more concise, but you know, when we're excited to like just kind of talk about it, you know, that's when I know it's working. When we're actually like excited to do it and it doesn't, you know, where we're actually like excited to share in this space, and when we're just like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this and what the reaction is going to be and to share this with the world, you know, that's kind of where I feel like it's working. Because that's what it should be. Back to the days when we were playing music, Greg, you know, like I was excited to go to practice. I was excited to play the shows, you know, not that we were going to like blow up or anything, but just the little small victories, you know. Anyway, I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna stop recording. I'm actually gonna press the button this time. Thank you guys for listening and see you next time.
Yeah.
Peace.